Hello and welcome to Piwik PRO YouTube video channel. Topic of this video: HIPAA Explained, navigating data privacy and security for healthcare marketers in US. Just a heads up, this video highlights some key insights and it isn't a substitute for legal advice and should not be treated as such. What is HIPAA? HIPAA stands for Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996. It's a federal law that safeguards medical information to protect patients' privacy. It's regulated by the Department of Health and Human Services Office for Civil Rights, so-called OCR. HIPAA establishes standards for the protection of health information, requiring healthcare providers, insurance companies, and their business associates to carefully handle protected health information, so-called PHI. HIPAA's rules are designed to ensure that PHI is kept confidential and secure, whether it is stored, processed, or transmitted, and also grants patients the right to access their health information and control its use. Now, we've mentioned PHI. It's important to explain what that is exactly to fully understand what HIPAA protects. So, what is PHI and perhaps what it isn't? Let's start with the term PII, which stands for Personally Identifiable Information. This could be name, address, email, but without necessarily the health context. In other words, it's a broader term. A narrower term is Individually Identifiable Health Information, IIHI, which refers to health data, health information that can be linked to an individual but is not exclusively created, transmitted, or maintained by a covered entity or its business associates. Finally, Protected Health Information, PHI, is a subset of IIHI. While IIHI refers to any health data that can be linked to an individual, PHI specifically applies when that information is created, received, stored, or transmitted by a HIPAA-covered entity or its business associate in a connection with the health services. This distinction might be important because if you're not covered entity or business associate, you don't have to navigate through the complexities of HIPAA compliance. However, other privacy laws, consumer trust, and evolving regulations may still impact how you handle health data. Another term we mentioned a few times is covered entity. What is covered entity then? A covered entity under HIPAA is a healthcare provider, health plan, or healthcare clearinghouse that transmits health information electronically in connection with HIPAA-covered transactions. Moving further, we need to explain the term business associate, which might be crucial for marketers as it may directly affect them if they work in healthcare industry or on behalf of healthcare provider or insurer. And so, business associate under HIPAA is a person or entity that performs certain functions or activities on behalf of or provides services to a covered entity that involve the use or disclosure of PHI. In other words, business associates can be entities such as billing companies, consultants, and IT solution providers. Now, this is not quite that easy as it seems because to be able to become business associate, such entity must enter into business associate agreement, so-called BAA, with covered entities to outline their respective responsibilities for PHI protection, meaning BAA is a contract required under HIPAA between a covered entity and a business associate. The BAA ensures that the business associate will appropriately safeguard PHI, outlining permissible uses and disclosures, implementing necessary safeguards, and detailing obligations. Here are some of the key obligations for a business associate under BAA. Safeguarding PHI, so implementing administrative, physical, and technical safeguards to protect PHI. Administrative would include staff training. Physical would be restricting access to office spaces where PHI is stored, where technical could be encrypting emails, limit PHI use and disclosure. So use PHI only as permitted in the agreement and not for unauthorized purposes. Breach notification, which means that business associates need to report any data breaches or security incidents to covered entity without unreasonable delay. Ensuring subcontractors' compliance, i.e. requiring subcontractors handling PHI to also comply with HIPAA and signing BAAs. Allow audits and compliance reviews, so permitting covered entities and regulatory bodies to review security practices if there's a need for that. Assisting with patient rights requests, so support the covered entity in providing patient access to PHI, any sort of amendments and disclosures. Such high standards require not only proper staff training, but also digital tools that comply with HIPAA regulations when handling PHI. To meet these conditions, such digital tool providers must also enter a BAA if they process, store, or transmit PHI. Under HIPAA, marketing activities are often handled by specialized marketers or agencies due to strict data privacy requirements. Additionally, marketing tools and platforms that process PHI must meet BAA requirements, meaning software companies must be willing and able to enter such contractual agreements when necessary. Now, since we understand basic terms, we are well equipped to look into how HIPAA defines marketing and the limits it places on marketers. Not every communication is considered marketing. For example, if a covered entity reaches out to a patient about its own services or sends a follow-up related to their treatment, that's allowed and does not require additional patient authorization. But if the communication promotes a third-party service or has nothing to do with the patient's care, then it falls under HIPAA's definition of marketing. And that means a covered entity must get explicit written authorization from the individual. Whether a marketing message requires patient authorization or not, most of these communications are delivered through some sort of software. So it makes sense asking question why software matters in HIPAA compliant marketing. If that software handles PHI, it must be HIPAA compliant and the vendor must sign a BAA. Just as important is how the tool is used. Even a compliant platform can lead to violations if it collects PHI for purposes HIPAA does not allow, like, for example, highly individualized retargeting ads. In short, compliance depends on both the platform and how you use it. Now, let's see how Piwik PRO meets critical HIPAA requirements. First, Piwik PRO not only can, but also has the capacity to enter a BAA, whether provided by the covered entity, by Piwik PRO, or as a mutual agreement tailored to specific requirements. In fact, Piwik PRO already has a number of healthcare clients in the US with whom it has signed BAAs. Now, even with a free so-called core account, Piwik PRO can offer a BAA for up to 6 months to facilitate testing and evaluation of Piwik PRO by any sort of healthcare provider. Piwik PRO ensures high security standards by meeting SOC 2 Type 2 compliance, enhanced with the HIPAA add-on. As a part of this extended certification process, compliance with HIPAA is also reviewed by auditors and included in the final audit report. This demonstrates Piwik PRO's readiness to handle PHI and may help simplify due diligence for organizations in the healthcare sector. Moreover, Piwik PRO holds ISO 27001 certification, adding a recognized risk-based framework that complements SOC 2 and reinforces ongoing security and compliance efforts. Additionally, Piwik PRO gives you a full control and ownership of your data. You decide what PHI to collect, how to use it, and when to access it. What does it all mean in practice? What internal activities does Piwik PRO perform to be HIPAA compliant? Piwik PRO does not share any of your data with third parties for any purposes. Platform offers role-based access control and maintains detailed audit logs. All data is encrypted in transit and at rest, protecting PHI from unauthorized access. User identifiers like IP address or user IDs can be anonymized or pseudo-anonymized to support HIPAA's data minimization principle. Piwik PRO undergoes annual SOC 2 and ISO audits, advanced so-called penetration tests, and provides ongoing security training for employees. But here's what Piwik PRO is all about. It's a robust, highly customizable, and user-friendly analytics suite platform that is HIPAA compliant. It features integrated tag manager, comprehensive customer data platform, consent management platform, making it ideal solution for US organizations that require secure data analytics. It offers exceptional, highly responsive support as well as a large library of training materials. It can also integrate with many different platforms, including Looker Studio and BigQuery. Piwik PRO cooperates with Azure, which not only has data centers in the US, it meets all the necessary requirements to be HIPAA compliant, which includes enabling physical, technical, and administrative safeguards required by HIPAA. For more info, go to piwik.pro/HIPAA and see also links in the description below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it and subscribing to our channel. Check the description below to find some useful links like free Piwik PRO sign-up page, community forum page, and links to related videos. Until next time.